Okay, let's finally put this debate to rest. I've heard so many times that smart telescopes are only usable for EAA, which means electronically assisted astronomy. But let's put this simple debate to rest before we discuss which one of these smart telescopes would be best for you. What does EAA mean exactly? EAA is a method of observing astronomical objects in near real time using super sensitive cameras. EAA involves attaching a digital camera to a telescope instead of an actual eyepiece, and then viewing the image live on the screen. So technically, yes, it's true, smart telescopes are used for EAA, but they have the potential to be used for so much more. And thousands of people, including myself, are using these smart telescopes regularly for astrophotography. Like mentioned in episode 1, the definition of astrophotography is the art of imaging or photographing celestial objects. And can you do this with a smart telescope? Yes, you can. And honestly, I'm really tired of hearing people say that you can't. So if you ever see someone on Facebook or YouTube trying to say that smart telescopes are not usable for astrophotography, don't pay too much attention to them. Using these telescopes, you can upload the raw data from your telescope to your computer for post-processing later on. Which smart telescope is the best choice for you? Dwarf 3, Seestar, Hestia, Vespera 2, the Celestron Origin, and the Unistellar telescopes are probably the most well-known, most reputable telescopes that are on the market today. But which of these telescopes would be the best choice for you personally? Let's first talk about the Dwarf 3 telescope. This telescope is the third in the Dwarf Lab series and the best that they've released so far. This telescope features both a wide angle and a telephoto lens, making it the first smart telescope capable of taking wide angle Milky Way shots. Some of the most notable features of the Dwarf 3 telescope has to be its 8 megapixel resolution, its built-in filters, and its small and portable design. It has significantly high quality optics with several ED lenses built in for color correction and the reduction of chromatic aberration. It uses mosaic mode to get a full frame image of your favorite larger deep sky objects, and it's not limited to only nighttime imaging either. It can also be used for bird photography with its auto tracking function, and it can be used to take panoramic shots of your favorite landscape scenery. Equipped within this telescope is a Sony IMX678 Starvis 2 sensor, allowing for less noise and a higher dynamic range, revealing richer colors and a higher resolution than the previous telescope made by Dwarf Lab, the Dwarf 2. This smart telescope was actually designed to be usable in equatorial mode, allowing for sub-exposures up to 60 seconds. The only downside about this telescope would probably have to be its shorter focal length. As a result, at this focal length, even with the 4K resolution that it has, it obviously can't get a close-up view of smaller deep sky objects. But the shorter focal length is also a great thing because it allows for a faster focal ratio of f4.3. This telescope is currently listed at a promotional price of $479 US, and once the promotional period is over, it's going to be priced at its normal price of $499. So if you're considering purchasing a Dwarf 3, make sure that you check out the link in the description before it's too late. How about the Seestar S50? This little telescope was all the hype when it was first released last year. And honestly, it still is a very hyped up telescope. And for good reason. It was the first smart telescope ever made with a built-in dual band filter for imaging. And to protect its optics, it also has a built-in dew heater. This telescope, like the Dwarf 3 I forgot to mention, has a built-in autofocuser, and it uses plate solving to accurately figure out where it is pointing at in the night sky. This particular telescope also has a built-in dark filter, allowing you to automatically stack your dark frames with your light frames, greatly reducing the amount of noise in your images. This telescope is also super lightweight and portable, and although it doesn't have a dual lens system, it can still be used for things like bird watching and landscape shots, if that's what you'd like to use it for, of course. Like the Dwarf 3, this telescope also has super high quality optics, since it has a built-in triplet apochromatic system. It uses the IMX462 sensor, which is a great sensor due to its low light technology. This telescope has an aperture of 50 millimeters, which is 15 millimeters larger than the aperture of the Dwarf 3, and it has a focal length of 250 millimeters. This gives us a focal ratio of f5. Now, that focal length is great for if you want to get smaller field of view shots, But if you want to get images of the larger deep sky objects in the night sky like the Andromeda Galaxy or the Orion Nebula, you're probably going to have to wait until they release the Mosaic mode. Or you just have to do it yourself manually. This telescope, like the Dwarf 3, is also priced at $499 US, and it's definitely a good bang for your buck. Also, one more thing, this telescope is also usable in equatorial mode if you can get a tripod that'll handle the weight of it. Up next we have the Vespera 2. This telescope features the same focal length and aperture as the Seestar S50, but instead of it being a triplet APO, it features a quadruplet lens system with a built-in field flattener. This telescope does, like the Dwarf 3, feature the Mosaic mode. It has a slightly better sensor than the Seestar S50, the IMX585. This sensor has a higher dynamic range, allowing for better colors and more light collection than the 462. And it has a higher resolution than the Seestar S50. But here's some of the downsides about it. This telescope is generally not advertised to be usable for more than astrophotography. And unlike the Dwarf 3 and the Seestar S50, it requires that you purchase the light pollution filters. $229 for the light pollution filter and $399 for the dual band filter. And if you want to protect your lens from dew buildup, you would also need to purchase the add-on moisture sensor, which would activate the dew heater. Without the required tripod, this telescope is already priced at $1,690. And with the tripod, it's priced at $1,790. This telescope has lower storage capacity than both the Seestar and the Dwarf 3. And for the price that they're selling it at, I personally feel that you might as well just purchase a Dwarf 3 or a Seestar and get the same type of image at only a third of the price. Despite those things, it's really not a bad choice of a telescope. It's definitely a high quality device that Vaonis designed. It has a unique look, a well and uniquely designed Mosaic mode called Coval ENS, and it has high quality optics. Also, I do need to mention this telescope cannot be used in equatorial mode. How about the newly released Hestia by Vaonis? Well, this telescope is technically considered a smart telescope due to the fact that it is usable with their app, which helps you to locate the deep sky objects. But if you're looking into this product as an astrophotography telescope, I can't say that I would recommend it to you. It starts at a price of $199, which is not bad, but it's reliant on you to use your cell phone to take the exposures. It is able to use an algorithm within the app to stack very short sub-exposures, but it lacks the capability to go to, it can't auto-center, and it can't autofocus. So it really doesn't do anything for astrophotography. This telescope is purposed for those who want to see a live view of these deep sky objects, but are not interested in astrophotography. The only reason I mentioned it on here is because it is technically considered a smart scope. How about the Unistellar scope? The cheapest of the Unistellar scope is called the Unistellar Odyssey. The Odyssey has a focal length of 320 and a mirror diameter of 85 millimeters, giving it a focal ratio of f3.9. I'd say this telescope is better for planetary than anything else. It features an 8.4 megapixel sensor, which means that it features great resolution. But if you actually look at some images that were taken by this telescope, you'll see that it doesn't even take pictures as good as a Seestar, despite being priced at $2,300. It is Go-To with auto-tracking capabilities, but it can't be used in equatorial mode. The astro imaging from this telescope and other telescopes by the Unistellar company are just not good, and it's just way too expensive. If you look at any video reviews with comparisons between this telescope and other kinds of smart telescopes, you'll see that they'll agree with this statement unless they're just lying because they're sponsored. The only unique feature about these telescopes is included in the Pro edition of these telescopes, and that's the fact that it has a built-in eyepiece. And while it's cool to be able to see the certain deep sky objects while you're imaging, it's just not worth the price since they range from $2,000 to $6,000. How about our last contender? The brand new Celestron Origin Smart Telescope. This is the fastest smart telescope on the market right now, but does that make it the smartest option to purchase? This telescope features a historical focal ratio of f2, which is lightning fast for a smart telescope. This telescope would be a better choice for those who are more interested in EAA only, simply because you could get a brighter image on your screen faster than you could with any other smart telescope. It features a 6-inch aperture, which is larger than the majority of smart telescopes on the market right now, and it has a focal length of 335 millimeters, giving it a good amount of magnification for smaller deep sky objects. Now, it does use a Sony IMX178, which is pretty outdated for this telescope, and it doesn't have the same dynamic range like the Dwarf 3 Starvis 2 sensor. So it does kind of lack on the amount of coloration that it has the potential to bring out. It does feature auto guiding, which means that it has the ability to dither, greatly reducing the amount of noise that would be in your astro image. But honestly, the thing that bothers me the most, and the majority of people, is going to have to be the price. This telescope sits at a whopping price of $4,000. The reason that this bothers me personally is that at this price, someone can make a larger, better astro rig that could get much better photos than this smart telescope could. Of course, those astro rigs are not as easily portable as the Celestron Origin, but they are far more efficient for astrophotography. Of course, if you plan on only using it for EAA, it definitely would be a useful tool. But then again, you can use the Dwarf 3 or the Seestar S50 for EAA as well. So it's your call for this one. Personally, however, I don't feel like it's worth the price, especially because some of the images that I've seen taken with it already are very similar to the quality of images taken by the Seestar S50. So in review, what do you think? Based on all the information gathered in this video, it's probably best to avoid telescopes like the Unistellar Smart Telescopes and take the Vespera 2 and the Celestron Origin with a grain of salt. The best two contenders for smart telescopes on the market right now are the Dwarf 3 and the Seestar S50, due to the price, portability, usability, and overall quality of the optics. And as always, the links to all of these telescopes are included in the description below. Remember though, in a few years this video may not be as relevant, due to the fact that new smart telescopes are coming out every year. And recently, I did hear that we might be getting a new edition of the Seestar very soon. And when that comes out, I'll make sure to put out a video with all the information that you need to know. If you did enjoy this video, however, please make sure that you leave a like, subscribe, and leave a comment down below to help boost this video in the YouTube algorithm. And remember that no smart telescope picture reaches its full potential until it's taken onto your computer for post-processing. But how do you even begin processing it? Let's find out on the next episode of A Beginner's Guide to Astrophotography.